walk alone. Although, considering who our next guest is, perhaps it should be readjusted to never bike alone. I'm your host, Kaelem, and please welcome our guest for today, former UCC Design, Theory of Knowledge, Geography, and Business teacher, head of Bremner's as well as WEDS, Associate House Advisor, although it is worth noting that not at the same time. SPY is one of the few things not on his resume. Mr. Mark Hoel. Mr. Hoel, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking, and I hope all is well with you and everybody that's watching this.
Totally. Thanks for coming to speak with us. We really do appreciate it. So I'll jump right in. So I know that you mentioned that the recent you mentioned to me before this that the recent pandemic interrupted your plans this summer, as it unfortunately did a lot of people's, a lot of ours. But I heard that you were able to have some rather eventful adventures aboard your bicycles. So why don't you tell us about those?
Sure. I had planned to ride to Halifax on my new bike. And what happened was, of course, the Atlantic bubble was created. So that was off the menu. So I decided that, I would still try to do some smaller trips. So there's something called the Guelph to Goderich Trail. So I rode from Toronto to Waterloo. And then I stayed overnight in someone's backyard that I met on social media. I know, don't do that at home, kids. But they ended up being really nice, and I could just stay over. Oh, there's my daughter. I'm on Zoom here. Okay. Anyhow, so I ended up staying in the backyard. Bad idea. Lightning and thunder, totally soaked. But got up the next day, rode to Blythe, Ontario, stayed in a campground. I was the only one there.
Nice.
Then the next day, poured rain again. Wow. And the bridge was out on the trail. So if you're going to ride the Guelph to Goderich, make sure you, actually read the instructions, because you'll have to carry your bike across a rushing river.
Oh, wow.
And if it's raining, it can be quite, so that was quite interesting, scampering up the other side with my bike in mud.
Yeah.
Anyways, got to Goderich, then biked down to Grand Bend, stayed in Grand Bend for a couple days, met some friends. Then went 600 kilometers up to Killarney, did some canoeing, bike riding up there, and that was one trip.
Wow, that's quite impressive. I also heard that, correct me if I'm wrong, that one night you slept in the garage of some guy you met on social media?
Yeah, so there's a really great trails in Simcoe County. So if you ever get a chance, mini adventures are close at hand. So I took the bus to Barrie, and then basically from downtown Barrie, you can get on this thing called the Simcoe Loop. So my first day, I got to Penetang, and another guy I met on social media. I said, can I sleep in your garage? So he said, fine. So, just put my sleeping mat on the garage floor, got up at 6 a.m, and I was back on the trail.
Yeah,
so
great.
There's a lot of mini adventures you can do when you're retired, and time's not a factor. So I'm trying to enjoy that. Obviously, it'll be nicer to sleep on a bed than the garage floor, but sure. I'll deal with what COVID gives me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed your summer.
Yes.
So, Mr. Hoel, I know you're very recently retired, but what's next for Mr. Hoel? What are your plans for the future?
Well, I just recently bought a house in St. Andrews, which is the full name is St. Andrews by the Sea. It's a small village, I guess, in New Brunswick.
Lots of whales.
And, what's that, Kaelem?
Lots of whales.
That's right. Have you been there?
Oh yeah, actually, just this past summer. It's a great place to any of our viewers at home. 10 out of 10 would check it out for Mr. Hoel and for the whales. But anyway.
Yeah. So look me up. I'm living in the downtown area, really close to the hockey rink. So I'm sure I'll be doing some of that, some curling this winter, maybe some Nordic skiing, and then maybe in the summer some whale watching. Yeah. I've already got, let's see, I got Mr. Crawford, Mrs. Crawford are coming in the summer. Dr. Hammer said he's going to come and visit. So I'm sure I'll have, a cavalcade of friends and so on from Southern Ontario, should COVID allow.
Yeah, of course. But I'm glad that you're settling in. So I suppose then my next question would be, What about New Brunswick enticed you to get out there?
Well, that's a good question. Well, my son is just finished buying a house, so I'm kind of copying him. He was looking in Southern Ontario, but there's a lot of FOMO or fear of missing out going on, driving prices up since the COVID happened. People are trying to get out of Toronto and move and get a bigger house, maybe a yard. So he was driven out. So it turns out that the cheapest place to buy a house is New Brunswick. So for him, being a young guy, Mowbray's house, represent. My son was at Mowbray's. So he ended up finding New Brunswick, Fredericton. So he lives between the university and the downtown. So he can hopefully find some social interaction when he gets there, as all young guys would like to do. But for me, I'm just an old retired guy that would rather live by the sea. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, you're looking young and you're looking fit, and I'm sure all these biking adventures and all the other things you're going to be able to do in New Brunswick will just add to that. So I just have one last question for you, Mr. Hoel, and it is sort of a spontaneous question. If you had one message to give to the UCC students of today, what would it be?
I guess it would be that pandemics pass; they don't last forever. This may seem like a real, you got a poop sandwich this year. You're thinking, oh, this is terrible. This is never going to end. And I know that when you're 14, 15 years old, 1 year is like an awful lot of your life, but don't worry, it's going to get better. It's kind of terrible if you're in grade 12 right now, but if you're in grade 9, it's going to pass. And the next year or so, you're going to go back to some bit of normalcy, and you'll continue to hopefully enjoy your time at UCC and make it as best as you can. But remember, pandemics do pass. It's a known fact, so don't worry too much about it.
Right. Well, wise words. Thanks for coming on today, Mr. Hoel. We really do appreciate it. That's all the time we have. And good luck in New Brunswick. And as well, thanks to our audience for joining us today. We really appreciate you watching this video. If you have any other former UCC teachers, UCC students, or UCC people in general that you would like to see interviewed, you'd like to hear back from, please do reach out to me at kaelem.moniz, so that's kaelem.moniz at ucc.on.ca, and I'll be sure to see what we can do. Thanks, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Hoel. Enjoy the rest of your retirement.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Bye, everybody.